Hey everybody, today we are talking about Before We Say Goodbye by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Before We Say Goodbye is the fourth book from the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. There are actually more than four, but currently there are four that are translated into English. And so that just means that we're going to get even more of these translated to where we can read them, which is very exciting. I think he's working on number 6, maybe 7 right now. I'm pretty sure number 5 is already done, but we just don't have it here yet translated where I can read it in English. So this one, I was so happy when it finally came out. I was waiting and waiting. I actually was able to get it on my birthday. My husband bought it for me on my birthday, and then it just took me a while to be able to have time to actually read it. And then of course I finished it in like 2 days because it's just really easy to read. It just flows so naturally. There's only 4 sections. That's usually how it goes. There's 4 stories, and in this one that follows the same thing. Number 1 is the husband, number 2 is the farewell, then we have the proposal, and then the daughter. Now, the husband has to do with a professor that is just super fascinated in this idea of being able to go back in time, and he has all these questions, and he's just speculating like, oh, it's so interesting that you can't change anything while you go into the past. How interesting is that? And just everything he's trying to look at in a scientific way, but at the same time he's like, oh, this defies like all of our logic about time travel and like all this stuff. And so he's looking at it, he's like a little giddy schoolboy really, because he just gets really excited about the whole idea, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go back and go back in time and see what it's actually like to do it and what the experience is. And so even though he has a good reason for going back, it also is a lot of just he wants to go back out of curiosity, but he still does have a good reason to do so. He wants to talk to his wife, and who is still alive, actually. He wants to go back to speak to her even though she's still living, which is unique because a lot of times when people go back, it's because somebody passed on that they want to see. But that's not the case with this one. The farewell, however, the second one, was about a dog, and that's all I really need to say about that. It's not for the faint of heart to read this chapter if you're like me and you have wonderful dogs in your life that you love so much. And this story, I just knew the second that it starts, a guy comes in with his dog and he's like, hi, and I'm like, no, because I don't want to read a story that has to do with a dog when it's this kind of a book, when you kind of know what's going to happen most likely. And I'm not going to give you any details because, like I said, it totally wrecked me. I was like sobbing by the end of it. And then my dogs were on the bed when I was reading this, and when I started crying, they like woke up from their napping and came over to comfort me, and that just made it worse. Like, just beware that, like, if you have dogs, then this one might hit you like it did to me. It's the first one that hit me as hard as that. Like, none of the other stories hit me at this extreme reaction as this one did. The next one, the proposal, this one is about someone who isn't really sure. She has a feeling that she's going to be proposed to, and she doesn't really know if she wants to say yes, if she is really ready to be committed to this person, if this is the right person to say yes to, or if someone else better might come along, which is kind of like sad to think about your own partner like that. Clearly, if you have those doubts, you're probably not ready for marriage with this person if you can't say that you know you would be happy making this decision forever. But that story just goes into more about this girl and how she comes up with her decision, why she wants to go back in the past, and yeah, so it surrounds a relationship. And then the last one, the daughter, this one also has to do with a relationship between a daughter and a father, and this one is it starts out where the daughter actually pretty much hates her father, is just really upset with him all the time because she lost her mom when she was younger, and ever since then she just felt like her dad was always hard on her and always like getting after her about all these things, and she just felt like she was getting suffocated by him. So she left to go to a university far away, not super far away, but just where she could get away from her hometown and be away from her father. And her father ends up coming to surprise visit her because she wasn't answering her phone and responding to him, so he just showed up because he wanted to talk to her, and she was pretty upset about that. And so this one actually is one of the first ones that I feel like you get really bitter anger from one of the characters, and then they decide that they want to go back in time to not be so angry and mean to her father. And so all of these in Before We Say Goodbye, of course it has a lot to do with saying goodbye, but then again a lot of these books do, where it is they want to go back in time to get a do-over kind of. But this one specifically, and every story, it really harps on the whole rule that you cannot change the past. You can't change the past at all. And they're like, well, if they know this though, couldn't they do something to change the future? And the cafe owners were like, well, you could try, but the end result's still going to be the same. Even though they know about something that's going to happen, it's still going to happen. Like, it's still unavoidable. It'll happen anyway. The cafe owners are like, that's just the rule. Like, we can't really explain it other than that. It's just the rule. So this one really goes into that rule hard, because a lot of them are just really thinking, is there a loophole? Can I get out of this? If I do one little thing, can I actually change the future? Can I make it so? And I think in the daughter, the last one, I think that there is something that happens in it that kind of does change the future, but not really. I mean, the main events still happen, but there is one thing that does change. And in previous books, there are certain things that you can do that do change, but they don't change like the overall events. Like say you go back in time and you give someone a photograph that they didn't have before. Well, now that person has a photograph. It doesn't disappear after you go back to your regular time. That person gets to keep that thing you just gave them. So that can be changed. Well, like, you can give them stuff, but you can't, like, any life-changing events can't be changed, right? So anyway, I really like this one a lot. It's hard to compare, like, between the others of, like, what would be my favorite. The farewell in here was definitely an emotional one for me, a connection for me that was the biggest I've had in any book, for sure. But also this one, I should note, actually happens way before the last one. Before Your Memory Fades, that one is like set where Mickey the child, she's like 7, I think, in that last book. But in this one, she's still a baby. Like, she's like barely a year old. So we went back at least 7 years from when that one was written. So some of you might be wondering, do we finally get to know what happens with the chair and the person in the chair? Because there's this question that still has not been answered that has to do with the person sitting in the chair. And in this one, since it is back in time, it is the woman in the white dress is the one that's in the chair currently. But in the other book, it was not her in the chair. There was somebody else that we still don't really know who it is. So that's still unanswered. Sorry. But you've probably read it by now. If you're a fan of this, you've probably already read it, because it did take me a couple months to finally read it and get it and do this video. So you probably already know. But if you're coming at this without having read it yet, you should totally read it. It is really good still, of course. And I'm just excited for more. If you like this kind of a book, if you've liked the first three, you're gonna like this one no matter what. Like, I don't really see how you could not like one if you're in it this far, unless you are not wanting the kind of the like same theme where it's like little stories of people going in the past. Like, if you're tired of that by now, then okay, don't read them anymore, because that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get stories of people going into the past or potentially into the future, but traveling time that's like the whole point of these. So if you still are not bored of that idea, I think they're done well enough to where even though it's the same kind of idea, you're not gonna get bored, because every person has their own reasons for wanting to do this, go back in time, and then that creates a new story in itself, right? So yeah, so anyways, I really enjoyed this book, and let me know what you think if you've already read it. Is it your favorite of the four? Is it your least favorite of the four? Did you have any reactions to any specific stories more than you expected to? Was it kind of the same feeling you got from the other ones? Were you satisfied? Yeah, I was satisfied. So thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.